Greetings, Dragon Ball fans, and welcome to part 2 of What If Goku Kept His Tail. In the last part, we saw Goku's attempt to control the Great Ape bear fruit as he took firm grasp of those reins. Unfortunately, Piccolo Jr. was not one to sit idle. Sensing those strange bursts of ki, he tracked them to the wastelands, watched as Goku and Kami practiced reining in the monster. Still determined to crown himself ruler of the world, Piccolo's training was taken to a whole new level. The tournament, however, did not go the self-proclaimed Demon King's way. Despite the lack of a full moon preventing Goku from exploiting his newfound control, Piccolo's arrogance nudged Goku over an unexpected edge. Unknowingly immersing himself in the feeling of the Great Ape, Goku found that same power buried deep within. The Ikari, or wrathful form, erupted over the arena, bringing with it the requisite 10 times multiplier for his already considerable battle strength. Years later, after the birth of Gohan, Goku's older brother Raditz has arrived to collect his weakling sibling for Prince Vegeta's own ends. Things did not go well for Raditz, though. He first met Piccolo, whose power now dwarfed his own. He then found his brother, and after a cheap shot on the seemingly weaker opponent, he managed to kidnap the hybrid child, Gohan. After a very brief confrontation, Raditz finds himself on the ground, unconscious, at the mercy of Kakarot, or Goku as he calls himself now, and that nasty-looking Namekian, as they prepare themselves for Vegeta's arrival. Fortunately for all concerned, Chi-Chi resigns herself to the inevitable, and they begin their year of training. To provide the greatest respective challenges, Goku trains against Piccolo in Ikari, then Piccolo and eventually Gohan train against a base form Goku. This quickly brings Goku's base up to where Piccolo was, and Gohan gets some pretty massive gains from someone starting at a power level of only 5. His training is also much more well-rounded with 2 partners, though Mr. Piccolo proves a more diligent teacher. For the time being, Ikari also proves too much for the boy, so Goku avoids using that against him. They also take some time for Ozaru training for Gohan, hoping to master that before then moving on to Ikari as well, which matches in power, but is far less clunky and doesn't depend on a moon. Chi-Chi should at least be happy that they spend their downtime around Mount Paozu, so at least she can make sure they still all eat well. She's not sure about this Piccolo and Raditz fellow, but the latter quickly recognizes the impending wrath of such a strong-willed woman. They do of course rope the now recovered Raditz into helping out, though initially not by choice. Piccolo can snap him like a twig, and while his younger brother spends most of his time weaker than him in his base, Raditz is amazed at the speed of their growth. During their downtime, he discards his scouter in an attempt to ignore Vegeta and Nappa's constant ribbing, and through conversation ends up telling them about the fate of the Saiyans. That proud warrior race, snuffed out by a chance meteor. And here is where it's Goku's turn to make a mistake. He wonders out loud if Shenron could bring back the Saiyans. Raditz stares at him blankly, while Piccolo shrugs and says it might be possible, but would probably require more than one wish. One for the planet, and then one for the people. Maybe limit it to only the good ones, like you, Goku. Wishes? Bring back what? Piccolo, Gohan, and Chi-Chi are suddenly aware that Raditz is there, staring at them with an odd look on his face. But Goku naively blunders on, talking about Piccolo, or I guess the Namekians, and the Dragonballs, and... Raditz suddenly jumps up and runs over to where he'd tossed the scouter after one too many comments about how Kakarot, his weakling brother, is stronger than him now, and how what little usefulness he actually had has now run out. He'd best enjoy those last few meals before we get there. He grabs the scouter, stares at it for a moment, then crushes it, cursing to himself. Had they heard any of that? Damn it, he shouldn't have crushed it. That was foolish. He has no way of monitoring their chatter. No, it's best to assume that they heard everything. He turns back to the others, who stare at him with varied expressions of suspicion, worry, irritation, and of course confusion. He sighs, sits down with a thump, and tells them all about the scouters. Okay, so they know about the Dragon Balls. Well, that's not ideal, but we can still beat them, right? Just train really, really hard. Chi-Chi shakes her head in dismay. At least this Piccolo fellow seems a bit more level-headed. Now freed from what bonds he had to Vegeta, Raditz's fascination with Goku's strange, not-quite transformation comes to the forefront. When he eventually learns that it's just a product of the Ozaru transformation, he sets his sights on mastering it. Seeing his brother's stuttering success, along with the regret at letting slip about the Dragon Balls, Goku asks Raditz if he'd like to train with them. Piccolo initially objects to this, of course, as he doesn't want two rivals, but is silenced when he hears that Vegeta can also control the Great Ape, or the Ozaru, as it's called. Starting at a whopping 18k, Vegeta can then get up to 180k in that form, well beyond any capabilities that recently departed Scouter had shown them. Raditz also shows them the Powerball technique, which conveniently allows Gohan to accelerate his own Ozaru training. Having left their current assignment and made a beeline straight to Earth, the Saiyans, Vegeta and Nappa, arrive early by a good couple of weeks. Instead of descending on and laying waste to E-City, they head straight towards the collection of power levels. There's nothing too spectacular on show, but they are forewarned this time. They know that these Earthlings, or at least Kakarot, can hide their powers from the Scouter. They arrive to find Raditz, his brother Kakarot, nephew Gohan, the massive Namekian Piccolo, along with a few others whose names they've not yet heard. Vegeta steps forward and lays out his demands. First, the Dragon Balls. Bring them to me. Second, you, Raditz, you useless punching bag, and you, Kakarot, also that whelp and that Namekian, will serve me now. The others can tag along if they like, but I don't care. Kakarot must show them this ability to boost his battle power, and together with Vegeta's wish, they will not only rid the universe of the likes of Frieza, but install the immortal King Vegeta IV on his rightful throne, at the head of the Frieza. No, at the head of the immortal Vegeta Force. IVF, huh? No one tell him. The Z-Fighters are, of course, having none of it. While the thought of ruling the galaxy has a certain appeal to Piccolo, the months spent training with Goku, Raditz, and especially the timid little Gohan have had an effect on him. He has bonded with the boy in ways he'd never thought possible. His inquisitive nature, incredible ability to learn, and those fascinating bits of book smarts his mother has managed to sneak in from time to time. Angered by their refusal, Vegeta instructs Nappa to show them what happens when they don't obey. Go deal with the weaker ones, while he shows these upstarts the strength of a true Saiyan elite. With Gohan, Krillin, Tien, Chaozu, and Yamcha facing off against Nappa, Vegeta faces Goku, Piccolo, and a slightly nervous-looking Raditz. He is even less happy when Goku visibly sizes him up, then, almost dismissively, turns to Raditz and says, "You take this one, big bro. Show him what you've got." In traditional Dragon Ball fashion, they start out small and work their way up. Raditz isn't quite at Vegeta's level, power-wise, but he's learned things. How to move and plan his attacks. He's almost holding his own, dodging most hits, but losing ground due to the sizable power difference. Also in traditional Dragon Ball fashion, just as Vegeta moves in to finish off his former minion, he finds his attack casually shrugged away as a wave of energy washes past him. Raditz stands there, yellow-eyed and almost shivering with power. Nappa, meanwhile, is finding it very frustrating, trying to keep up with both the humans and the hybrid boy. Having trained with the combination of his dad, Mr. Piccolo, and later Uncle Raditz, Gohan's keen mind has soaked up the various skills, techniques, and tactics like a sponge. He ducks and weaves through the distractions of the other Z-Fighters with practiced ease, all while figuring out how Nappa ticks. When Nappa is distracted by Raditz's rather dramatic rebuff of Vegeta's latest attack, Gohan takes this as the cue to do the same. While his base strength isn't nearly as high as Nappa's, that 10 times boost from the Ozaru, and thus Ikari state, proves more than enough. So Nappa finds himself launched through the air, straight at and into an unsuspecting Vegeta. Vegeta was meanwhile completely off balance. Raditz has suddenly been shrugging off his attacks like they were nothing, and then suddenly Nappa comes flying over and into him. They both carry on into an unfortunately located rock formation. Enraged, Vegeta throws Nappa aside and charges in, going all out against his former minion. But to no avail. Even at his full 18,000, Raditz is all but ignoring his strikes. Okay, enough of this. Where's that damn moon? He tries to fly off to find it, but is brought up short first by the startlingly yellow-eyed Raditz, then Kakarot, and then finally by the Namekian. Feeling trapped and forgetting to check his scouter, he curses and resorts to a Powerball. Let Raditz deal with a couple of mindless raging Ozaru, while Vegeta takes his time cleaning up this mess. The ball is launched, and Vegeta begins his change, but none of the others even glance at it. Raditz has long since shown them the ball, and besides, there's nothing to be gained from the Ozaru but a sluggish, oversized body and shredded clothing. Piccolo moves to destroy the Power Ball, but Goku stops him. Watching Raditz fight the prince has got him all riled up. There are, of course, two Ozaru. Vegeta has been joined by a slightly injured, but still functional, Nappa. Raditz proves more than a match for Nappa, however, while Goku quickly has to resort to bringing out his own inner beast to face the oversized Saiyan prince. Unfortunately, even his well-practiced Ikari is left lacking against the colossal power of Ozaru Vegeta. Once Nappa is beaten back and his tail cut off by a well-placed Kienzon, courtesy of Krillin, Raditz joins his brother against his former master. They work well together, slowly wearing down the increasingly raging beast, until Raditz is caught by a lucky strike and is knocked out of the fight for a moment. When Piccolo foolishly tries to tag in, he is promptly backhanded into the ground, fortunately near Gohan. "Mr. Piccolo!" Gohan shouts. His lingering Ikari rage boosts. His eyes dilate, and with an unearthly roar and a strange muscle boost, the ground around him shatters as Gohan launches himself at the massive Vegeta, knocking the mighty prince back and injuring him. Gohan then falls to the ground and collapses, the accidental Stage 2 Ikari being entirely too much for his young body to maintain. Seeing the chance and knowing that Vegeta still has power to spare, Goku dives in and grabs the limp but massive tail. Flying up into the air, he starts spinning around using the centrifugal force to pull on the tail. He finally manages to rip it off, and Vegeta's shrinking body tumbles back to the ground, settling near the equally tailless Nappa. They are beaten, tailless, and, just like Raditz before them, at the mercy of these puny earthlings, the Namekian and these detestable low-class Saiyans. Thinking he's about to die, Vegeta says that it doesn't matter. Frieza probably knows about the Dragon Balls too now. They certainly know about the Namekians, so they might come here, or they might go to Namek and use those ones. By denying him his wish, they've just sealed their fate. He at least would have let them live for proving themselves so capable. Frieza won't be so kind. He'll certainly wish for immortality too. Then, you are so screwed. All of us are. This news is a bit of a shock to the assembled Z-Fighters. Who's this Frieza fellow? Raditz had mentioned him, hadn't he? And Namek? A planet full of Piccolos? Not sure if that's a nice thought. But where's that Frieza guy going? How can they prepare for this so-called galactic tyrant? They mull over these questions for a while before Kami telepathically tells Piccolo that he might know someone who can help. A few days later, Kami informs them that Frieza is indeed heading to Earth. He will be arriving in about 6 months, and if those power levels are anything to go by, he's also dispatched a significant force to Namek to collect those balls as backup. None of them are strong enough to face down Frieza, though, so dramatic measures will be needed. Not wanting to waste a potentially needed wish on traveling to Namek, Kami and Mr. Popo show them the ancient ship that the once nameless Namekian traveled to Earth in, and they set to work on fixing it. Bulma and Dr. Briefs, however, for over a year, have had the remains of Raditz's pod, and now both Vegeta and Nappa's pods to play with. With a little input from the Namekian ship, they figure they can build an entirely new ship that will both be much faster than the old Namekian one, and could include a gravity booster to help simulate a more natural Saiyan environment that so-called Prince Vegeta keeps harping on about. With Bulma's help, the capsule ship should be ready to go in record time. This, combined with the increased speed and the fact that Vegeta and Nappa had wasted no time on getting to Earth, means that they will arrive on Namek at around the same time they did in canon. Well, won't that be convenient? So, who goes where in this two-pronged attack? Can they get to Namek and back in time? Piccolo, and by extension Kami, are eager to meet their long-forgotten brethren. Raditz is happy to tag along with his new green, friend? If for no other reason than it means he'll be where Frieza isn't. Vegeta doesn't want to let Raditz or Kakarot out of his sight until he learns that strange, almost Ozaru-like power that they have. The Z-Fighters, none of whom have been killed by the way, are now also available to choose from. Presumably Chi-Chi will put her foot down, though, at the thought of her little Gohan heading off-world. There's no need to risk her entire family, certainly not when there's no one actually dead yet. Find out what happens next time on Dragon Ball. What if Goku kept his tail?